Coming up on OTH, Raymond and I have a lot to cover with patch 12.12, the ability reveal of Nilah, the first winners of the spring split or summer split of Champions Queue, and then also week 2 of the summer split of LCS. We hope you enjoyed this episode of On the Hunt. Welcome, everybody, to episode 59 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I'm your co-host, Chris, aka The Baked Potato, which is not really anything special. It's just really hot where we are, and I know I keep saying that, every month. But it is really hot, man, and I am a potato, so it just kind of fit really nicely when I thought of it.
Okay, I like it.
And yeah, keeping it nice and simple. We don't have to do gymnastic puzzles every week with
like a
with the
potato.
AKAs. Exactly. And joining us on this episode is our other co-host, Raymond. How's it hanging?
It's hanging pretty good. I'm getting ready for a trip this week, so that's exciting. But more of the same otherwise.
A big boy trip. How long are you going to be away?
I leave Wednesday and I don't come back, so that's the 30th, the 29th. We leave the 29th and I come back on like the 10th of July. So nice long
Sheesh.
trip.
You know what I was thinking about the other day? Like, people take sabbaticals where you can just like leave work for a year and then come
Yeah.
back and like your position is intact, like nothing happened. That's so crazy to me to think that like that can happen to you when you're like at that stage in your career, I guess.
Like if you just want to dip.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just dip from like Google and peace out for a year, don't keep up with anything in the industry and then come back and yeah, you still have your same job.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah. I mean, goes to show how much companies like probably don't actually need to do all that crazy interviewing and shit. Like if you're there and you figure shit out, you're good. They'll keep you be around.
Hopefully, man. How's the gaming life been this week?
It's been good. Let's see. I don't know. I've been playing some more Maple Story. I got my character up to like level 175 or something. So
Oh no.
we're on the train. Um, yeah, I don't know. Other than that, just I played more of that idle game, but kind of dropped it because it was too much thinking for me. It was too much like work. So I kind of was like, I don't really want to spend that much time figuring out. But it was interesting, but it was just like I couldn't do it. Um,
For sure.
but yeah, and then some games of League. Other than that, too much.
Sweet. I think I played one game of League just yesterday. Played
Nice.
a sweet game of LeBlanc, and there was a scary Rengar in my game that was ultra fed. I think he went like 21 kills or something like that in an
Oh
ARAM
my
game.
god.
Pretty insane. He was out for blood.
Did you beat him though?
Oh, he was on my team. Thank
Oh,
God.
okay, nice, nice. Easy game then. Easy
That's
game,
the
easy
twist.
life. Yeah. He was just that scary. Like
Yeah.
even 21 kills on your side, you're like, holy shit! What if this guy?
Yeah. Yeah. Better
What if
not
this
say
guy
anything.
turns on
He
me?
could turn
Yeah.
on me. Exactly. We got a moderate week of notes this week, so let's go on ahead and get started with patch 12.12 that came out 5 days ago, and we're just now getting to it. A little bit of stuff in here. We have 8 champion nerfs, 8 champion buffs, and then some adjustments to some items. I almost called them weapons for some reason, and some other champions as well. With our Blue Essence Emporium and some new skins coming through. Let's start with the typical buffs and nerfs. Does any of these catch your attention?
Well, I think we gotta hit the champion that is in every patch notes from the end of time now. It seems like, and it's Zeri. We got some well-deserved nerfs to Zeri W, doing 1 billion damage when it goes through walls. So now it'll only do like 500 million, but that's nice to see.
Yeah, I have somebody on my friends list who plays mid lane Zeri, and they just build AP and try to shoot at people with W's the whole time. And it's kind of annoying to like have that person on your team and they don't Q or auto attack and they just W forever. But it's also pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah, it is pretty funny. I think it's one of those things that it's like, damn, that is funny when it's the enemy team getting fucking chunked, and then when it happens to you, you're like, fuck that champ, man.
Yeah, I want to call out the Ivern buffs. I like to see Irons in my games. Tough to see that he didn't do so well with the durability swap, but they're giving him some good buffs here to his passive, Shield and Daisy. So you like to see it. I like when my junglers play Ivern. They usually don't have an ego when that happens.
Yeah, unless it's Tyler One Ivern somehow in your game. Have you seen that guy, the Jamaican banana guy? Do you know that guy?
No, I don't.
He's like NA like high elo one trick Ivern, and I feel like I always have like kind of a finger on the pulse of Ivern's balance because I swear he always has like tweets that pop up like in like randomly on my timeline that are like, wow, dude, like I'm gaining so much elo because Ivern is OP, or like, damn, they really butchered Ivern. I'm down to like 200 LP masters, and
Yeah,
I've definitely seen the red match histories from that guy getting posted. So I think from that very scientific data set, it seems like this is well deserved. Speaking of
that's pretty
another,
funny. I
yeah,
think yeah, I think somebody else is like pretty down in LP right now, like the LeBlanc guy who is his Bobkins. Like he's just down
oh
in
yeah,
LP, and then like yeah, LeBlanc must suck right now. Then
yeah, especially yeah when you got those guys that are like ride or die the one champ, and it's like, damn, that's a blower guy. Sorry.
yeah, and then the next change that I want to call out is Belveth. They're making a whole bunch of changes to her. Just the patch after that she came out, increasing her attack range right at the start, but then reducing it from the amount that she gets from her ulti. And then yeah, just making a whole bunch of adjustments to her passive E and a lot of bug fixes as well. So I'm really happy to see that she's getting some play at least in regular games, and still have to wait and see if she'll come out in pro play.
Yeah, that's true. I think is it this week that she'll be enabled?
I would think so. Yeah, the 2 weeks after the release. So I think that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, I wonder what we'll see because I do think that these patches are like I'd imagine that this patch is kind of the one that you'd expect to see more pro play out of. I think they've talked a lot about like what Belveth kind of like her design targets were, I guess. And like she's definitely like a better champ at low elo where people, like can't punish her just like farming for a while and getting level 6 and, like getting a dragon or a herald for her passive form and going and doing stuff. Because there are definitely games where she gets so fed from some free ganks or just being able to farm for a long time that like it becomes a little unmanageable. But she is so weak early, and it's like really easy to punish that. I think if she's not like if it's not just like handed to her in the early game. So I think a lot of these have made it like it's kind of like smoothing her out. Like a lot of nerfs to like her E, making her like kind of have to put points and abilities to scale, and like the attack range is like buffed early and like lowered late. Like it's smoothing the curve a little bit. So hopefully she'll be like I'd imagine this is the patch that she'd get in pro just because she's a little more consistent in the early game and still has those like high highs in the late game if she can get there.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting to see like a really good Belveth player.
Yeah, it
So it'll
is.
be really exciting for that.
Yeah, it is definitely like hit or miss the ones you run into in solo queue, just like normal games. I feel like, and it's so hard to tell because I think playing against it, you just have these champs. They're like if they get super fed, it's like man, I don't like. It doesn't matter what you do. Like you're just gonna kill me because I'm not gonna kill you, and your E is gonna do all my health while you have 70% damage reduction. So we'll see. We'll see how she turns out if she does make it into pro.
For sure. Any other champion adjustments that you want to call out here?
Well, I do want to call it this one. I don't know if you've been watching some pro this last week or so. We've seen a big resurgence of Seraphine in the bottom lane and other positions.
Yes,
Like some
sir.
Seraphine Senna stuff, some Seraphine with other champs, some Seraphine middle, I think maybe. Just the threat of it at least. So she's kind of all over the place and seems pretty strong. And you know what that means, right? Decided to go and buffer in this patch. So
Yeah,
if you're looking for a champ to pick up, I think it's going to be Seraphine in 12-12, and then hopefully we see her in the 12-13 notes with some nerfs. But yeah, I'm surprised that they're just giving her like flat out a half second of more CC because that's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen her in the bot lane, and but she has been steadily getting nerfs over like the past 6 months or so, and or sorry, buffs over the last 6 months, and then yeah, she's finally made it back into pro play, being in the bottom lane.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it makes sense with the durability updates. Like, you just have to make sure you have some more damage outside of your bottom lane. I mean, surfing is pretty useful still, even if you're not like you can build the Andrews, you can build AP. It's not the same as having a real AD carry, like drafting, an AD carry in mid lane or like a Kindred jungle or something, making sure that you have a lot of supplemental damage is good with her.
Yeah, I still remember the one time I got hit by a Seraphine ulti that came from off my screen because it just shot through like three or people or something like that, and yeah, that's how I knew that champ was broken.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those that you definitely, even if you read the champ on release, you played against it sometimes, you're like, oh, okay, the R charms, like it's a big Sona ulti, got it, got it. And then every once in a while there'll be that one that comes through and it's like, holy shit, that went so far. What does that champ do? What is that ulti? Oh, it resets on champs? Why does it do that? What the fuck?
Yeah, and then I guess around the internet people are complaining about the changes to Katarina and Shaco, but I really do not care. And then a lot of the other changes are pretty minor as well.
Yeah, I think everything else, I'm with you, like whatever. Everything else, we've got a couple taps like up and down here. I think like for pro play,
Yeah.
it's going to be like stuff about like the Fiora one, the Jarvan one. I think is going to be pretty good. Like Bruiser Jarvan, I'm sure we'll see more people play. Junglers love to just do that. And then like the Viego nerfs are kind of big, not big nerfs, but like significant nerfs to less of his less damaging builds.
Uh huh. All right, and then I guess moving on, there was some adjustments to items, namely Night Harvester, Serpent's Fang, which got like a bug fix that's like ultimately a nerf, and then Shadow Flame as well. And then also, I kind of want to talk about this nerf to Predator, which like they've like nerfed it pretty hard again, in terms of like the move speed and the cooldown, and it feels like they just go really back and forth on this. Um, I almost call it a keystone, but what is it called? A rune?
I think you're right. Isn't it a keystone? Like
Maybe.
it is a rune, but I thought it's like a keystone rune. I don't know.
You might be right, or I might be right. But yeah, like one of the main ones. Yeah, what do you think about this pretty fat Predator nerf actually?
Yeah, it's a big deal. I think the main thing I think they're trying to do is just make it less useful of like a laning rune. Like they've gone back and forth on like stuff like the cooldown for it and trying to make it something that you can buy early and like use for like junglers, especially like in ganks and stuff. Um, but you see a lot of like roaming champs that are like like Galio mids that take it or Vygar taking it and that kind of stuff where it's like it is almost like too effective to just be able to be in lane and pop it and like run at them for a trade that they kind of can't avoid because you're using Predator, and just have extra damage on the trade through Predator when you wouldn't have it normally through like because you're trading off Electrocute and that kind of stuff. So I think it's nice to just like kind of tap it down on that effectiveness and you get more value out of it if you're using it to like do a real roam or like they get more of the long move speed out of it. So we'll see if it changes anything. I don't think that this is like what made people play Galio mid or anything, but it definitely was a nice rune to have and nice like play style to have mid for those kind of champs. So we'll see what it does for those guys.
Yeah, and people have been playing Galio mid around the world, so it's pretty good right now. All right, anything else for patch 12.12? I guess I should cover the skins that come out here. We have a couple of Snow Moon skins, which don't really fit the theme, but they look cool. So we have a Snow Moon Caitlyn, Snow Moon Alawi, Snow Moon Kane, which kind of looks like an Aatrox skin, like looking at it, and Ashen Knight Pantheon, which sounds cool, but kind of looks like Mordekaiser the more I look at it. So pretty cool skins.
Yeah, pretty nice. It is like kind of weird that these are in the middle of the summer, but No, they're pretty cool. I kind of like the Caitlyn one. I've heard a lot of different things about the Pantheon one. People like complaining that it is not as good as the Pike, the Ashen Pike skin, which I think, because I think this is like a mythic skin, another mythic skin, right? Like this is the new mythic essence drop. So if it's not like super up to par, a lot of people are mad about that.
All right, and then coming back from our last week's episode, talking about the teaser of Nilah. We also have an ability reveal now, and she has some crazy stuff, man. So we can go ahead and start examining her. I'll go ahead and start with her passive, Unending Joy, and I'll just read it out here. Nilah amplifies the healing and shielding abilities of nearby allies. Allies that heal or shield Nilah also gain a bonus heal or shield for themselves. When an allied champion heals or shields themselves near Nilah, she gives herself a bonus shield. So that's just part one of her
Yeah,
passive.
part
What do you
one.
think about that?
It sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty good. It's interesting. I mean, you'll see it when we go through the rest of her kit. Is that she's kind of like a go in kind of champ. So it's a little funny that they're giving her this passive, which ties her a little more to like enchanter kind of supports. Like I think we'll get to the rest, and I'd imagine you can see like, oh, do you pick Nautilus, you pick Leona, do you go in with them like because you have that ability? But this one is kind of it sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty good. Like you get those guys, imagine a Soraka or a Sona, and you just have 20 to 30% more healing and shielding, and it works both ways. Is nice. It sounds nice.
Yeah, I'm curious about the values because yeah, it sounds like if you shield yourself, then Nilah gets a shield too. But then should you always just shield yourself or should you shield Nilah? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know just yet.
I think it's probably you still shield whoever's taking the most damage or whoever's the more important target, but it is like especially for like 2v2 situations just to have. I mean, it's just extra health when it comes down to it. That both sides get. So, well,
Yeah.
it sounds good.
Yeah, so not only are you getting like extra shield effectiveness, but then also you're just getting two shields across two different people because of that. And
Yeah,
I don't know if it's the full value of the shield. I would think it's a reduced amount, but then it's pretty crazy still.
yeah,
The second part of her passive is that if Nilah hits an enemy minion, she and her nearest allied champion will gain the normal amount of shared experience plus half of the experience that would have been lost due to sharing. And so my brain kind of hurts reading that sentence, but long story short, you're getting more XP than you should be in a
yeah.
duo lane.
Yeah, and so
Um,
if you don't know exactly how that scenario works, like if you're a dirty solo laner that only says jungler get away from my minions, right? Like
yeah,
the the way sharing XP works is like normally a minion gives 100 XP, you say, and then if you have two champs there, both champs get something like 75 or like 65 XP. So you in total get more XP, but each champ like it's split, so each champ gets less overall. So
yeah,
this makes it so like in that situation, if you both got 60 out of the 100 in a normal situation, then you now both get 80, I think is how it works. So because you're missing 40 due to the share, so you're getting half of that, which would make it 80, which is like I'm interested in if this changes, and I haven't done the math, and I couldn't be bothered to until she actually comes out. But I don't think I'm interested if this changes like level up like thresholds, like in the early levels. Like, do you hit two off the first wave? Do you hit three off of the second wave? Like that kind of stuff.
that'd be
Um,
crazy.
yeah, I don't know how that works, but if you did that, that could be really insane. But overall, I mean, just being able to get more levels is usually a very, very potent ability. So yeah, on top of the shielding thing, this is still just your passive, by the way.
Yeah, so I kind of hate to see it, just knowing that whole terror with Mordekaiser and like how crazy it
Yeah.
must be to balance these kind of things. So I'm kind of sad that they're bringing back this mechanic, so to speak. Do you have any opinions on that?
Yeah, it does feel a little weird. I don't know. Overall, this stuff, like, it, especially with the Mordekaiser thing, right? When they gave it to Mordekaiser, it was like, we're gonna shoehorn him into the bot lane. Like, you play this in a duo lane because you get more XP. That's fucking broken, right? Like, just go for it.
Yeah,
Um, and I mean, it kind of feels that way with this passive so far. It's like you get the bonus healing shielding, you get the bonus XP. It's just like free shit that when you play normally, you know you don't have to play any differently for it. It's just like now you get free shit. Um, I was talking to a buddy who was saying like I don't know if this means you could just play like if she can clear jungle, do you just play like Lulu mid and Nilah jungle, and then stop by mid every once in a while to soak up a bunch of extra XP and then go about your day, and then eventually she's your hyper carry. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know. It sounds crazy.
Anything else about her passive? Any last thoughts?
No, I'm just I won't be surprised if any amount of this passive gets like actually just removed from the champion in the future. That's all.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like, yeah, that could just not be in there on upon release.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Moving on to her Q. It has a passive and an active. I'll start with the passive. Attacks and ability damage against champions. Ignore some of their armor and heal Nilah for part of the damage dealt. This effect scales with crit chance and converts any excess healing into a shield. So, sounds like she just has built-in lifesteal as well as kind of a bloodthirster effect.
hmm Yeah. That's more nice stuff.
Yeah, and then let's get on to the active. I think it's a skill shot, and she just
Mm.
kind of throws her whip in a straight line, and then hitting an enemy. It doesn't say champion or like anything, so it just says hitting an enemy will briefly increase Nilah's attack range and attack speed, and empower her basic attacks, causing them to splash in a cone and deal additional damage. I don't know how long the duration is for that part, but yeah, basically you just get every stat that you could want as an AD carry. Plus, adding on some bonus splash damage as well. So with the Q, equally as broken as the passive so far. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it is a little wild. I think um, part of like what they talked about with this part, and it's something you're not going to get out of just her ability stuff, is that she is, I think, a 500 range ADC. Like Sivir
Yeah,
and like Lucian, right? So some of this is like you have to get something in compensation for being the super short range ADCs. Like and in this case, the Q is like we're giving you life steal, and you get this is like her wave clear kind of form with the AoE stuff and like AoE skill shots. So to some degree, that's like what this should be. I mean, it's your bread and butter like damage kind of stuff. But you have to be in short range. You get AoE stuff. You're still in ADC, but the life steal and everything. That's like her way to make it worth it.
yeah. Any last thoughts for Neela's Q?
Now let's get on to the crazier stuff yet to come.
It gets crazier.
It gets crazier, I swear.
All right. So her W is kind of like the thing that we were talking about last week, where she kind of phases out. So Neela shrouds herself in a jubilant veil and briefly gains move speed and takes reduced magic damage and dodges all incoming basic attacks. So that kind of explains the interaction with Twisted Fate.
hmm
And then touching an allied champion hides them in the veil as well, but just for a shorter period. So just to recap, you press W and you get move speed, reduce magic damage, and you dodge basic attacks for probably a sizable duration. I would probably guess 3 seconds or more. So pretty cool W, if I dare say. I hope it's a long cooldown, kind of like Samira W, probably of like upwards of like 28 seconds or something like that. But
Yeah,
anyways, what are your first thoughts?
I think it kind of has to be long. I think you're right. Like, it is a lot of stuff. It's again like surely this is justified in quotes by being a short range ADC. Like she has to go and whatever. But it is a lot of stuff to get for an ADC. I think Samira Windwall, like you think about it and it's like yeah, it's that long cooldown and it's also like really short, right? Like you have like 0.75 seconds maybe where Samira W's up. So you have to time it pretty well. With this, it is a little like Gwen W-ish where it's just like if I'm going in, I'm gonna pop this, right? And you dodge basic attacks, you take reduced magic damage, like whatever, like whoever you're facing, like that's like gonna be the optimal kind of thing. Um, and then like the the sharing it with allies, I think, is like kind of crazy. I mean, it's hard for you to like go and touch all your allies in a short period too. But like in a 2v2 even, just like being able to stand on top of your support and, as TF gold card comes in, do that kind of thing and do it reactively is pretty nuts. But I imagine it's a lot harder to use like in like super OP scenarios. I thought about this with like Senna E when she first came out too. It seems like there's way more plays that I think you can do like with Senna E, like and play like really tricky like fog of war things on enemies, and it just doesn't happen very often. And I imagine that's kind of the same thing with this. It's like you really the optimal scenario, right, is like Twitch pops ulti and the enemy Yasuo goes in and you just like W and hit all five of your teammates and then they're useless while you clean them up. But like you're never gonna be able to do that like perfectly. So I it's still a really nice ability to have, but it is a kind of tough. Like it's not quite a spell shield, it's not quite a win wall, but it's still pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah, yeah, and I like your point about Senna W or Senna E as well, where like, yeah, like theoretically you could do so much cool stuff with it. Where yeah, and depending on the value of like how fast, how much bonus move speed that you get on activation, like maybe you could catch people off guard, or like if you can buff multiple people.
Yeah, we will see how useful it ends up being. I mean, it's gonna be useful. Like, don't get me wrong, but I'm the upper limits of it are yet to be seen.
All right, and moving on to her E. This is the one. This is the skill that lets her go in, and it's very similar to Samira E, but better. So um, yeah, so this is just a targeted dash to. It looks like any unit from its description. So it's called Slipstream. Slipstream lets Nilah dash through a target unit. I don't know if that means words.
I think
Traveling
so.
a fixed different distance every time and damaging all enemies she passes through. And she can store up to 2 charges at once. So I actually kind of just want to pause there. So what do you think about that? It's pretty much Samira E, but you can target anything and you can hold two. So it's just like yeah, better like Samira E without
Yeah,
the attack speed buff.
yeah. It is pretty interesting. That it is like remember that Samira E originally uh got nerfed from like that target any unit stuff. So I'm interested to see if that sticks around as well for Neela because it used to be really good for Samir to get that like because you do plays where you go in you get a reset and then you can E out right to your own minions or that kind of stuff to your support, and so that part of it is nice. But the fact that this is like not a reset ability also is like pretty different from Samira in that sense.
Oh right.
Right? Like I think what you envision when they write this on paper, right, is like, oh, this means Neela plays backline and attacks whatever's in front of her until it's time to go, and she can E through her front line and then E to the back and then blow all her stuff, like, and then that's how you kill ADCs. Um, but then if that doesn't go right, then you're stuck in the back line with both of your dashes down and you're just like dead meat if you don't win, right? So that's kind of like the trade-offs for sure. But I am surprised. It is funny how similar it is to Severe E, and we haven't even like said the second part of it.
Yeah, yeah, and so the second part kind of puts the nail in the coffin. So during your E animation, you're allowed to cast your Q, and then it creates a trail, very similar to Samira EQ, and it does the damage and applies the same effect that the Q does, where it grants all of the bonus range, attack speed, um, and the Titanic Hydra kind of cone effect. So I think I really like skills that do this, like interactions like Yasuo EQ, Samira EQ, where like the skill just or and Kiana EQ stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
I like that you can have like different interactions when you kind of combine this two skills and stuff like that. Even Aatrox EQ is pretty cool as well sometimes. So what I guess any thoughts on the second part of her E?
No, I think you're right. It is pretty cool when you have abilities that actually like work together like that, and it's not just I don't know, like I think it'd be easier to make the champion clunkier by like having the E and then having the Q, right? And it's just multiple cast times and like long animations or whatever. And so this it is like just a nice kind of nice to have thing for the champ, I think.
Awesome. Any last thoughts for Nilah's E, Slipstream?
No, this is definitely like the simplest one.
Yeah, I mean, pretty cool ability. I mean, it's gonna be annoying when they start getting away from jumping to their allies and stuff like that. And yeah, like you said, I can't imagine that all of this goes through when she goes live.
Yeah, at least we'll see in a month. It might be there when she's live, but maybe not by the time she sees pro play.
All right, and lastly, we'll finish up with her ulti, which is pretty cool. It's a moderately big AOE, and I'll just go ahead and describe it. So Nilah unleashes a surge of power, lashing her whip in an area around her, and with the final burst, pulls enemies into towards the center. So I mean, it's pretty much just like an Orianna ulti on top of herself. Continuing on, her ulti also heals her for part of the damage dealt, and converting any excess healing into a shield. This it says effect. I'm going to assume that's the healing. Scales with crit chance and is granted to nearby allies. So it's a pretty cool AOE ultimate around her that heals and shields yourself and your allies as well. So and CCs them with the pool, so to speak. So I really like this, and it complements her kit really well with having to E in, and then maybe you can get the fat ulti off, and then it could really be a game changer because it has like so much that it does all at once with good damage, some CC, protecting yourself, and then also like healing your buddies as well. And then maybe if you eat on your teammate with your W, then they're like protected from auto attacks, and you just gave them a heal, and all of this crazy stuff happening all at once. So, what do you think about her ulti?
Yeah, I think you're right. It is a really like cool ulti, I think, for her. The like big moments like Orianna Shockwaves are like, awesome team fight kind of things, and this is legitimately like it's an Orianna Shockwave with a ball on you. Um, so that part is super cool. I think what's gonna be interesting is the numbers on like the heal and everything, because I think I've seen a video. It says like you get that healing on nearby allies, and I've seen I think it was a Vanderbilt video, and he showed it where like I don't know, it's a long distance. It's like 1,000 range or so of like
Oh,
nearby allies. So that's like I don't know. It's kind of it's that was kind of forgiving. I don't know if that's changed at all on the PvE since that was probably like a day one thing. But like if this is just like I go in and try to hit 5 people and then we get across the team that's like a 2,000 health shield on all 5 characters. That's really fucking OP. So I'm interested to see what stays and what doesn't, or what the numbers are on this when it comes through. But it's really cool. Like this, it is a neat ability, and I'm sure it will be fun to use. But I'm not sure if it'll be fun to play against because it sounds like single-handedly team fight winning if you do it right.
yeah. I would say that kind of looking at this video, I don't think it's that big. Like for if Anila eat on top of you and ultied, you could still flash out of it. It's not that big.
Right.
Um, but if you don't have flash or you're maybe I don't think you could vein tumble out of this, but maybe a Lucian dash could get you out. Um,
Yeah,
I
I
think
can't
I think
tell.
it's a good
Can
size.
she move while she's doing it? That's an interesting thing. I don't know that for sure. Is it like Nico ulti? Kind of have to stand still
Ooh,
before it catches because there is a decent amount of time to react. Like that is for certain, but I don't know if she could move around with it.
okay, yeah, I don't know that part, but yeah, but there is like I would say 0.75 cast time. And yeah, that's the whole Neela champion ability reveal. Pretty cool champion, if I dare say. Definitely, she's going to get a lot of play, at least in just in the game. And then sometimes you hope that a champion like that is busted, just so I can see some pro play, kind of like Samira did.
Yeah.
And then yeah, she just got nerfed to the ground like 2 weeks in.
Yeah, I imagine this champ is going to be really similar to Samira release, and it's like either you get the insane crazy pentakill combos, or you are like a giga useless champ. So we'll see what happens. Especially as they almost assuredly have balance changes to make to her, and if any of those things get taken on and off. So it'll be an interesting one for sure. I'm gonna definitely be trying this champ once she comes out.
Pretty cool champion. And speaking of champion, let's go on to talking about Champions Queue as the first
Woo.
split of the summer split of Champions Queue is now concluded. So we have our top 10 people who will be getting some prize money. First, we have Isles, who is teamless. And also, I think he's still at risk of like being shipped back, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
I kind of forgot about that like until just now. I think he wins 12,000 or like some ridiculous amount like that. Yeah, 12,000 points for first place, or 12,000 USD for first place. Next up, we have TL Armeo. He gets 8,000 for second place. And then in third place is C9 Destiny. And if I remember like correctly, I think second through fourth were ridiculously close. Where like Armeo has like 240 and the Destiny has like 238 or something like that. Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
second through fourth was like super close. So C9 Destiny gets I think 3,000 for no 4,000 for fourth place, and then CLG Solo, third and fourth get the same amount is what I meant to say, and then Solo is in fourth place. And then I'll just take like a quick moment to gather myself again. Okay, and then Golden Guardians Concept is in fifth place. He gets an amount. I want to say 2,500. The website I'm looking at is wrong. It has it wrong.
Oh, okay.
Next up is Core JJ at sixth place. He gets 1,600. Followed by Tony Top. This just sounds like a cool guy. Next, we have Golden Guardian Stixay, TL Yeon, and EG Yukino, who they get the same amount as 6th through 10th. So some new faces here, some familiar people as well. Pretty cool to see that there's just a different crew kind of here in the top 10.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting to see how the lineups kind of change since they've made the changes to Champions Queue with the split, like with the MMR and like dynamic uh, LP numbers and gains and stuff. So it's nice to see that it's like, I think if you look at the leaderboards for this, it's not everybody here is just like oh yeah, these guys spammed 120 games this split, and obviously they're at the top. It's like they've had good win rates and all that kind of stuff alongside it. So it's feels like this iteration of Champions Queue is just getting like better and better.
Yeah, glad to see that people are still at it and playing. All right, now let's finally get into some LCS Summer Split. The second week has just gone by, and there's no more undefeated teams, and there's no more fully defeated teams. Let's just go ahead and go through the standings. Our top three are still the same. We have EG, CLG, and Team Liquid all tied at 4-1, each taking a loss this weekend. Next up in Seoul, fourth place, we have 100 Thieves at 3-2. And then after that, we have TSM, Cloud9, and FlyQuest all tied at 2-3 with Golden Guardians. So that make that four teams at 2-3. And then lastly, to round out the standings, we have Immortals and Dignitas at 1-4. Pretty cool weekend with I would say a couple of upsets here and there. I think there's a lot to talk about from most of the teams to come through. So I'll let you pick and choose who you want to start with.
Yeah, dude, I think let's start with more of the top of the table guys. I want to talk about EG and CLG, who both are still in first place. They both lost the game this weekend, but like they're still looking pretty good.
Uh huh.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's been like for CLG, they kind of had a weird week. They lost to FlyQuest and then beat EG like for to tie up for first there. FlyQuest not looking that great in most of their games, and that CLG game they just kind of like ran over them. That was actually a really cool game with Johnson on Twitch, and they played like a late game Twitch Yumi comp, and it went to like 40 minutes or some shit. And Aframu looked fucking destroyed at the end of it because he had to play Yumi for that long.
Yeah.
Um, but that was a really cool game back and forth, and like I think for both these teams they've looked like TL is up there also at 4-1, but these two teams have had like all five of their games have looked like good games, like good performances from them, even in those like couple that they lost, right? So um, I've been really impressed by the way that those guys have played, like coming out the gates.
Yeah, they had a super long match on Sunday, EG versus CLG, where like yeah, I wouldn't have expected that kind of ending. But yeah, I'm really happy to see that EG is still doing well, still playing a lot of quirky, and looking forward to see more of them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think for CLG, it is also like pretty cool to see how they've like still been having some interesting picks. Like a lot of the priority on their Seraphine kind of stuff. Even I mean, even their Sunday game where they played EG, it wasn't like a crazy like weird comp, that but you had Luger playing Kaisa. The team was like really, they both of those teams look really coordinated on like what they want to do, even if they're playing these like new champions or in the case of EG, it's like you're playing kind of the same meta from last split. I'm not surprised that they haven't really started to dive into changes, but like they're still executing kind of like on the level that you'd expect out of a team that just won LCS and is trying to do like the same plan that they had before.
Mm-hmm. Any last thoughts on EG and CLG?
No, not for me. Definitely 1 and 2 right now for me.
Yeah. I'll follow with your theme at the top of the tables with Team Liquid. I would say they had kind of a funny weekend going 1-1. Saturday losing to TSM, and then pretty like badly actually, I would say. And
Yeah,
then in their Sunday match, they were pretty behind for like the first 20 minutes or so in that game, and managed to claw back. And it kind of felt like because they're just a better team overall, I guess they deserved to win, but it wasn't a deserved win, if that makes sense. They
yeah.
deserved to
They
win,
should
but
they
the
should
win
have
wasn't
had to
deserved.
win like that. They deserved to win, but didn't. It shouldn't have been like that.
Yeah. So, hmm, pretty like drastic change from their first 3-0 week, where like it seemed like they were pretty unstoppable coming into summer, and then this week really brought down to
The
earth
stock,
once
yeah,
again.
yeah. I
So
mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I mean they're still in first place. They're still at the top of the tables, and they can still be first place at the end of the next week of games as well. But um, I guess yeah, God's gonna bleed as well.
Yeah, and in this case, it definitely seemed like maybe they broke an arm or something in like a bicycle accident. I don't know. It was a kind of drastic bleed, I would say. The TL game against FlyQuest, I don't know. To some degree, it's like you said, like you didn't expect them to win it like that, but at the same time, it's not like they played absolute horseshit. It's just like they definitely played better than FlyQuest did in that game. Like as it went to mid and late, and just capitalized on what was given to them. I think the TSM game from them looked like really like uncharacteristic, I would say. Like last week, like
Yeah.
they were obviously like, oh yeah, they're 3-0. They're you got Bupa playing some neat chance in top. Bjergsen's still like playing like a crazy like rock in the mid lane.
Uh
Um,
huh.
I think that TSM game they had just felt like there was a lot of, I don't know, miscoordinations, overstepping. Like there were some dragon fights where like the dragon had already been gone, and they kind of just like forced their way into fights that ended up being really bad for them while they didn't have cooldowns. And I don't know, it felt like they were giving themselves away with a comp that I thought would have scaled better, and they could have played slower like you normally would. Um, but they decided like, no, we have to play faster, we have to make something happen, and threw it away. So that game just looked really weird to me, I thought. I mean, similarly for like TSM's credit in that game, I think they played pretty well and capitalized on the opportunities TL gave to them, and made it like a really easy game to take away. But I that one was just like, what the fuck is going on with TL if they lose that game? And then when FlyQuest in that FlyQuest game when they started really slow and were giving kills to the Twitch, I was like, Jesus, they're just gonna get fucking rolled over in this game too, and you're gonna be like, TL was never good. But
Yeah.
they pulled it together. I guess they salvaged it. If they had lost that FlyQuest game, I would have be a lot lower on them than where they are now. But they held it together.
Yeah, and hopefully they get it back together next weekend as well. The next team that I want to talk about is Cloud9. They went undefeated with a different roster, having Sven and Berserker now in the bot lane. Do you have any first thoughts on how they did this weekend?
They, I mean, it's good for them that they got their guys back and pulled out 2 wins. I think if I remember right, their Sunday game looked a lot better to me than their Saturday game. That first game on stage against Dig, I think Dig had like a decent game, if I remember right, like a decent early lead. Um, but I don't know, C9 was playing a pretty cool comp. They were playing like I really like the Kale LeBlanc combo that they had in the late game. You would just see like Kale was like dropping ultis on Jensen's LeBlanc because he just would like double distortion into the backline to try and dump some damage and get like a 5-man kill ulti, and then he'd pop back. And
Uh huh.
they just played fights out really well in that game, and ended up with the win. But they found themselves kind of behind early with a comp that I thought would have been better in a lot of the places where they were losing. Um, and then like yeah, that one just felt like it should have been easier than it was. And then the 100 Thieves game that they had on Sunday looked like more of what you'd expect out of I think like a top team kind of thing, but at the same time it was also like I thought they got a pretty good draft diff over 100 Thieves that like just made it look kind of unplayable by the time where they had a lead. It was just like okay, yeah, this game is fucking over. 100 Thieves is never going to be able to do anything. But again, like when you're given that, when you're presented with that, take advantage of it, and that they did that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I like the way that they pulled out their two victories this weekend. Well deserved against Hundred Thieves as well. Um, any other teams that you want to highlight from week two?
Um, I don't know. We talked about like five of the teams that I think we're expecting to do pretty good. I want to talk about TSM a little bit still because they had, like we said, they had that one win against TL on Saturday, and that was like a really big
Looked
win. They,
great.
yeah, they
Yeah.
looked really good in that game. I thought. I mean, it was still like again, it was like TL was looking kind of like what the fuck is this team, but that's if TL wants to play like Dignitas and Immortals, and then TSM's playing against them, I expect TSM to fucking stomp them like they're playing against Dignitas and Immortals. So they did that, which is good for them. The Sunday game was a little bit like disappointing, just when you come off a game like that TL game, and then
Uh
Sunday
huh.
their draft felt like they were trying to get a little cutesy with it, and it was a little too cutesy. Maybe they got like kind of counterpicked in the bot lane with they ended up with like this double enchanter Seraphine Karma, and Golden Guardians had Tarek, or not Tarek, Senna and Mundo as the bottom lane
Yeah.
like farmer, and that was like I don't know, it's like a really good way to beat up a team that doesn't have a true AD carry, right? Because like how are you going to kill Mundo? And then the rest of the TSM side, like instead of picking more stuff that could DPS and punish, they had Gnar, Volibear, and Yasuo. And like you don't have setup for Yasuo, you don't have that much damage to deal with like Mundo. You have to have Yasuo in melee range basically, and then Gnar can't go in because he's supposed to be one of the guys who's killing Mundo, and it just felt like really, really bad. Like sometimes you just lose from draft and you kind of know it, and this felt like that kind of game.
Yeah, I think the Mundo pick, it seemed kind of troll on paper, but then and the way that it played out, it turned out really well for them.
Yeah, I mean, you think about like that kind of style, like bot lane never really has that much damage. They just want to poke you down little by little, right? And when you're playing like a normal AD carry that doesn't get life steal, or you're playing a mage kind of champ, like if it's just Senna and you pick like an enchanter with her, like you're gonna get outpoked by something like Seraphine Karma and never really get to play. But Mundo like lives off of being half HP because he gets health regen, and then you build, resist early and more health regen, and you're never gonna die to this champ. So like yeah, it worked out really well as a counter pick.
Sweet. And then from there on, we kind of went through a lot of the teams and kind of their matchups. But was there any other highlight matches from week two of the LCS you want to talk about?
Let's see. I think we kind of hinted at all the like really cool games.
Hmm.
I wanted to give a shout out on for FlyQuest being like the only team that's playing like Twitch. Like Johnson had a couple like Twitch games this weekend, and the first one, I mean, like both of them, it looked like he had the opportunity to carry, right? And they were just in that TL game, they a few too many of the like Twitch picks didn't work out. And like you'd
Yeah.
have like Zeri flying over walls and getting out of it, or like they'd have to spend a whole lot to go and kill someone in the side lane that just ended up not being worth it. But it still to like I think Twitch is a champ that we've seen like a lot more in like Champions Queue and probably in scrims and probably in other regions. But like this is the fact that it's like only this team is playing it is like kind of surprising, but they've played really well with it, I thought. So I'm hoping to see more of that kind of stuff out of Johnson and FlyQuest moving forward, and other teams too. But I feel like they're definitely gonna be the ones who are gonna do it.
Hmm. I think my favorite game from this past weekend was just really one play where I think it was the TL versus FlyQuest game where I think Hansama hops over the red side Raptor wall with Zeri and he's like trying to chase somebody down because they caught Twitch out on the off on this trying to sneak around on the side, I believe it was,
Oh
and then
yeah,
yeah, and then Rakan tries to RW onto Zeri, but then he gets interrupted by Lulu ulti. And it wasn't, I don't think that was like an accident. I'm pretty sure that was very intentional to like interrupt Rakan W with Lulu knock up on her ulti. And so that was really cool by Core JJ to do that.
yeah, that was a crazy sequence. I think even just like having the guts and like the instinct to go and find Twitch on that flank and put down that early ward, and then like you said, the perfect move to like catch them out and punish them on it. So yeah, that was a really awesome play. I like that.
Yeah, I don't know how big of a difference it would have made if Afromood did land the Rakan RW onto Zeri, but it definitely just looks super cool in the moment of like like how they were so ready for like a counter engage and how to prepare for that. So that was probably my favorite play of the weekend. All right, any final words for week 2 of the summer split of LCS?
No, I think it was a good week. I don't know. A lot of the teams feel like they're
Mm-hmm.
coming into their own. Like this top six kind of that you expected looks like they can. Well, I guess we didn't really expect CLG to be up there. The top five plus CLG all look like they're doing pretty good. Um, Golden Guardians and FlyQuest are both still around, and then Immortals and Dig look like they're kind of shit. I'm a little surprised at how bad Dignitas has been. But like it's not that surprising. It's just like I'm surprised they're not like seventh and they're instead ninth. But
Sure. They did snag a win this week, so maybe they can hit 7th next week. We'll see.
true.
And then speaking of next week, I think we can go ahead and start previewing some games coming up this weekend. I don't know if you'll be around to see them, but coming up Saturday, I think we have a couple of interesting matches in there. Starting off with TSM versus EG. Another one that looks good, like it could be good, is 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid. And then lastly, CLG versus Cloud9. So three great matchups coming up on Saturday. What do you think about any of those?
I think honestly for me the biggest one out of that feels like it's going to be CLG C9. Like
Uh
the
huh.
the other ones I'm thinking are probably pretty EG favored and pretty TL favored. But CLG C9, I think I don't know. Given the way they've played, it kind of should be CLG favored. But we just saw a 2-0 C9 week, and this C9 roster is kind of like as it is. You kind of have to take the C9 roster as undefeated and then plus 3 losses, like as a handicap. So we'll see if they can prove themselves against CLG. And like I imagine the trash talk coming out of that on either side is going to be pretty funny. It's either Luger is you know sending Sven back to ADC, or Fudge is sending Dokes back to Academy. So we'll see how it goes.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Out of those three, I would say yeah. First game is EG favored. Second game, I mean, it could be a toss up, but I definitely favor Team Liquid there. And then really, it's so funny, and we're gonna talk about CLG in the Sunday match as well. Um, but yeah, just like this one time where like, I guess we have to talk about CLG because they
Right.
started this the summer split off really well. Yeah, let's move on to Sunday. Again, I think there's a CLG versus Team Liquid match. So we just have to look forward to that because that could, once again settle who's at the top of the standings at the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
Are there any other matches that you want to highlight on Sunday's schedule?
I think the other one for that, I kind of want to call it the C9 fly matchup because, like I was saying, I was high on the Johnson Twitch picks, and I'll be interested to see because I think that C9's bot lane will like let them. I'd expect them to let them have whatever pick they want. If they want to play Twitch Yumi, C9's like fine, you can do that, and then they'll have something like pocket to go up against it. Like whether it's like a Berserker Draven or something like that. But like they'll have a plan, I think, and that'll be kind of cool to see. in my book.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think did was Johnson the one who did like some cool play where he stealthed and then turned level 6 in stealth and then killed somebody
Yes.
with it?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was like going into the bottom lane like right as yeah. It was like I think it was kind of cool. He faked that, like a cannon was the one that died to give him 6, right? So it's like he's stealth walking up. Zeri's like hanging around, like I know Twitch could be here. I know Twitch could be here. Then the cannon dies, and he thinks, okay, if he was here, he would have taken the cannon. I'm like, like now I can walk up. And then he walks up to the wave right after the cannon dies, and that's what gave him 6. And then he opens up as he gets close. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was a really cool play too.
All right, good on you, Johnson. You've got the OTH seal of approval. All right, man. Any last words for the upcoming week 3 of LCS?
No, I think that's it for me, dude. We should shout out too that this like I'm gonna be gone next week, and I don't know when we're gonna record next, but the week after this, like today's Monday, our games this week will have a week break afterwards. Like the next weekend is off of LCS, so we
Actually,
will
didn't even
really
notice
not miss
that.
that. Yeah, so that's just a heads up that I don't know when we'll record next, just because of the vacation scheduling, but we probably won't miss. We won't be off cadence of LCS weeks at least.
Awesome. Yeah, they knew.
True,
They
true.
scheduled it in for you. All right, and that is going to be it for episode 59 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on the service that you're listening to us on if you haven't already. We'd appreciate it if you also give us a rating or hit the like button to show some support. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts, and see you next time for another episode of On the Hunt whenever Raymund comes back from his vacation.
Maybe I never will.
That's the dream, I think. I don't know, that sounds kind of cryptic.